You can't always get what you want. Truer words have never been spoken. It's important to know that there's a rather common misconception in magical circles. That is this idea that a magician, sorcerer, should be capable of bending reality to the egoistic desires. That if they suffer a setback in life, that it can be fixed with a few magic words, some candles, and some incense. That if they're not getting what they want, then they just have to change their methods, invoke different spirits, maybe work with better spirits. That's all fine and good. Because I do believe that sometimes that is exactly what we're meant to do. Sometimes I believe that is exactly what our higher self wants. It wants to see us struggle against a situation and improve it. And so far, that's exactly what my path has been. Coming from nothing, being a no one, being recognized by the right group of people at the right times, working the right spells and rituals, having the right message, and being the right voice for the spirits. But sometimes we don't get what we want. Sometimes what we get is what we need. It's not so funny when it happens to you, but it's true. Now, I'm quite all right. Nothing bad has happened to me in particular. I was a little disappointed today because I learned that it's going to be a little bit more difficult than I like to achieve a long-term goal that I thought I would be able to do this year. I still might, knowing that it might still be possible and that it's mostly a combination of financial and legal issues. It's a policy issue. I decided tonight to work with King Belial. His aggressive, perhaps even Martian energy came through actually quite mildly tonight. Perhaps I was a little bit distracted, tired, other things. As you can see, I'm yawning on my mind. I didn't feel the chills, but I heard the voice. And I started falling asleep. I started nodding off as I stared into the candle, as I called upon his name, as I heard his answers to my questions in my mind. Adversarial answers indeed. He reminded me over and over again that he is often called Belial without a master, the masterless one. Peerless in a way, masterless, the one without a master. What does that mean? And why? Why is he so many cultures seen as a demon of wickedness and lewdness, of bad ideas? And Belial is a very satanic being, a Luciferian being. He liberates us from our shackles, the ones we may not see with our eyes, the ones we may not think of, our very base shackles. It's interesting because in Shadownomicon, Ronzael is called the shadow of wickedness. I do wonder. What kind of shackles? What does it mean to be without a master? What does that mean? How do we become without a master? Being without a master means that you are not at the mercy of anyone, which is obvious, or anything. You see, when Belial is invoked or evoked, when Belial is called upon, often what he does is put you through difficult hardships. And these hardships show you very clearly the things that are your master. The things that rule you. The things that control you. The things that make you weak. And so what did he bring up to me in this conversation? Too much of my time has been spent on worrying about financial things, growing my business enough so that I can presumably be less controlled by it, reaching a point where I can be comfortable enough to do it differently. And some of that is just the excuses I've told myself. I'm certainly not a greedy person. I'm not looking for riches. I'm a little bit lazy, admittedly so. Certainly a little bit lazy. By lazy, I don't mean I'm not willing or able to do a lot of work. I don't like being compelled. I dislike certain responsibilities in life, especially the ones I seem as pointless. But no, my focus has been quite a bit on finance and money, which is ironic because I don't really care so long as I'm comfortable enough to have the things that I need and a little bit of the things that I want. Quite content. Don't need a lot of money. I don't make a lot of money. But my current issue, my current problem, is making sure that I have enough money to do the things that I want to do. And what does Belial do? We call upon him when we have legal issues or contractual issues, right? It's one of the things he's really good with. He's a liberator being just like Lucifer. He liberates us from those shackles we don't see. Very much, in a sense, connected perhaps to the shadow current, or at least capable of similar shadow work. Belial without a master. And 2020 has attempted to become the master of us all, has it not? Every time we turn around, something happens which robs us of some of our agency. It takes from us some of our freedom in some capacity. Our freedom to choose, our freedom to be, often in subtle ways. I asked him about my situation. Will you help me? I do not grant wishes, Thorne. I understand that. Can we make an arrangement or a bargain? I do not grant wishes, Thorne. Is this thing that I am trying to do, is it meant to be? The simple answer was no. I said, so does that mean this thing that I'm trying to do is not what I'm supposed to do? And it's funny because when I hear my own words coming back at me from a spirit or another person, I find it remarkable. It's interesting because I go through that roller coaster of gnosis where I forget the things that I've learned and have to be retaught them from time to time. And he said, no, it is not, because it is not meant to be in the sense that, no, it can't be. It's not that it's not meant to be in the sense that it shouldn't be. It is not meant to be in the sense that nothing is meant to be. You are not meant to be this or that. You are not meant to have that or this. The future is open to you. If you want this home, you want this job, you want this career, you want this girlfriend, boyfriend, you want this life, there's nothing meant to be. It's an interesting thought because there are spirits of fate as well. Asmodee is a spirit which has a good deal to do with fate, because one of his original incarnations was a spirit named Ashima. A goddess of fate. And I had identified when working with Asmodee, and I really do need to do a video about him soon. I want to work with him a little bit more on some projects before I do. One of the interesting things I got from him was that fate is not a thing that is deterministic. It's not a thing that exists in the sense that you must do this. Rather, it is a state of mind to be in. It is a valley of opportunity. And if you are in the center of that valley, the more smoothly your life will go, because it follows your higher self's truest intention. And that is the nearest thing we have to fate. But it itself is not fate. You, as a divine being, do not have a fate. Nothing decides for you what is to come. You, as an ego, however, do. Your ego has no choice. Your ego thinks it has a choice, but your ego is really along for the ride, and all it can really do is reflect. All it can really do is suffer and experience. Or should I say, suffer and relate, suffer and criticize, both good and bad. Judge. It is my ego that wants to do this thing that I feel held back from doing. It is not reality. It is not my higher self that is stopping me. My higher self's intentions are clear. I know what will happen. It is my ego that lacks the patience to accept the timing that it may require. It is my ego that demands that it happen now. Your ego, my ego, everyone's ego is a chain. I've often described the ego as a jester that sits upon the throne of the king, and the throne located in the heart chakra. And the jester acts as if he is the self. He acts, or she, as the case may be, as if they are the self. They wear the king's crown and they pose and they pomp and they make jokes and they do what they do, while the king is hidden somewhere in the chamber, laughing and watching along with the audience, until such time as the king desires, or the queen in this case, to take control again, to wear the crown and evict the jester off of the throne. Belial, without a master, teaching me in this instance, that the jester, the ego, is not in control. the one that wants this now, the one that suffers this, the one that begs, Belial, help me to have this thing. This ego is a nothing. It is a story. It can be ignored at any time. The ego manifests. The ego is a manifestation of. It is an interface for the higher self and the material world. And when we forget ourselves and we think that we are our ego, we suffer. And Belial reminded me of this, even though I had already said it tonight. He reminded it to me again. It is my ego that wants this thing so badly. And it may not be good for us. It may not be good for it. To have it may be a terrible life lesson. A lesson I technically don't need. The lesson then is for my ego to take a back seat. And a lot of people speak about ego, arrogant ego. I challenge anyone to have no ego. I always love when people say, Thorne, you have too much ego. I remind them it takes a great deal of ego to point out the ego in someone else. I'm not ashamed of having an ego. And that was not Belial's point either. That would be the same as being enchained to something. This idea that one should not have ego is just as limiting as allowing your ego to control your life. And so the chain that he broke for me tonight again, and hopefully it stays broken, is that chain of ego. And I asked him to solve the problem for me, and in a way he has. I asked him, will you grant me this thing? I do not serve you, Thorne. Is this place, this thing that I desire, going to be mine? And he said, if it is your will, it will be. Anything can be yours. You can do anything. You have power. You have power to manifest whatever you wish, but not your ego. You, Thorne, the real you, behind the name, behind the mask. You have the power. And if it is not manifesting for you, there's a reason and there's a story for it. So I asked him again, can you help me with this matter, please, dear Belial? And I fell asleep again, draining me directly of so much energy. I'm still tired. You can probably hear it in my voice, probably see it in my face. In a very real way, people make the mistake of thinking that getting what they want sets them free. Unfortunately, or perhaps fortunately, it is quite often the opposite. Being denied the things that you think you need and want is often way more liberating than being given all of them. Belial, without a master, one of the wickedest spirits in the Abrahamic tradition. And perhaps this is why, because those who walk with Belial learn to be free, to break the chains. And sometimes that requires giving into those chains, giving them slack, allowing yourself to behave a certain way, because it liberates you from the chains of otherwise not doing. There are few spirits more adversarial and left-hand path than Belial. Belial. Very few. So Belial has once again left me without a master. And hopefully I don't pick up another one. Anyway, guys, if you liked this video, you can help support me by liking, sharing, and subscribing, of course. Leave me a comment below if you feel it is necessary. If you wish to support me financially, if you look in the description, you will find links to my books, links to my Patreon, links to my website at www.mindtheshadows.com. There you can find access to my various services. I do offer a mentorship course. I also offer various magical rituals, including some affordable rites that I do for those who can't afford the big deal stuff and want something more like a generic blessing, a candle spell, something along those lines. If you're interested, check out the website. There's also blog content on there. Anyway, guys, until next time, mind the shadows.